Hello, this is Bruce Talley. I have longtime broadcaster Lee Hacksaw Hamilton for another segment of NFL Notebook.
Yeah, Bruce, nice to chat with you again, and to all of our viewers across Europe. National Football League camps open in about 15 days, and there are mounting problems as the National Football League tries to get this thing up and running. Problems on the field, problems with players, problems with the union, and now some coaches are starting to sound off. So we have a lot of topics on the table.
Can you tell me what's happening between the owners and the players' union?
Well, as we've talked in recent weeks, Roger Goodell kept saying 16-game season with all the fans in the stands. Well, that's not happening. Not happening in baseball, which is about to start. Obviously not happening in the NBA, which has gone to the bubble. National Hockey League will open very shortly in a two-hub city without fans. MLS is already underway without fans. NASCAR is running races without fans. The NFL has now come to the realization they may have to start without fans just because of the pandemic here across America. As it relates to the union, the players, Roger Goodell, and the owners, this is where we are right now. They have not agreed on the health protocols. They have not agreed on the structure of the preseason training camp. And this has become a really big issue because we are 2+ weeks away from the supposed start of the training camps. The owners went to the players this past week and inferred, because we may not have fans, you're going to have to give us money back. And the players went up in arms. The owners asked the players to defer 35% of their salary and be paid down road. The union said absolutely not. And then the information came out that not only did they ask for 35% deferral, the players would get their money, but they're not going to pay them the money next year. They want it deferred over the next 5 years or maybe the next 11 years of the collective bargaining agreement. And the players said absolutely not. And then on top of that, the owners just continue to insist we have to have some preseason games, and that's a revenue thing. They want 2 preseason games, and the players have said absolutely not. Players under DeMaurice Smith, who is the head of the union, although he's been very, very quiet, he's let the players do the talking. DeMaurice Smith gave him a counter proposal, and this comes from what the players are demanding. The players want no preseason games at all. The players want strictly a 48-day training camp. They want the first 3 weeks to be all about conditioning and classroom work. They want then 2 weeks of strictly walkthroughs without pads or helmets, plus classroom work. And then they want 10 days in pads, in practice, before the season starts. Players are really concerned about the health situation. They don't want guys getting hurt in training camp and getting forced on the field in meaningless preseason games when they have not been in football mode all off season. There were no mini camps. There were no OTAs after the draft. So they are at loggerheads right now, and they have drawn a line in the sand, and there's no progress being made right now. And as I say, we're 15 days away from the supposed start of NFL training camps, and they have not solved this situation at all. The other thing that's really interesting, the general managers and the coaches around the league have been very, very quiet about the, quote, negotiations. They don't want this thing to turn into the mess that baseball was, where there was a fierce public argument. But Pete Carroll broke protocol on Friday. The Seattle Seahawks coach went public and said, are we rushing this too soon? Should we delay the start of training camp because we don't have anything solved? Might we push the start of the season back? So now there's some other people that may step forward to stand alongside Pete Carroll and say, we don't necessarily agree with the way this thing is structured, because obviously there's no deal that has been made yet. So that's where we are. Camps were supposed to open July 21st for rookies, July 28th for everybody else. And union says, no, we're not going to do it the way you want it to be done. And some of the players are now starting to pop off at the same time. We don't feel safe with the protocols that are put in place. So that's where we are as we march into the second week of July.
Speaking of players popping off, I see some pretty controversial comments this week from Philadelphia Eagles player DeSean Jackson.
Yeah, social media sometimes can become the devil. when the players sound off. DeSean Jackson's a pretty good wide receiver. He's kind of bounced around the NFL a little bit. He's kind of a free spirit. But he went on social media and made reference to people of the Jewish faith. He went on social media and quoted Hitler. He went on social media and quoted the head of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, and has gotten terrible negative response from society. The Philadelphia Eagles really upset at what DeSean Jackson did. By the way, his general manager, Howie Roseman, the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, are of the Jewish faith. There is a sentiment out there that DeSean Jackson might have talked his way off this team. And this might wind up in a real war. He's supposed to get $4.8 million guaranteed salary on top of the $2 million roster bonus he's already been paid. They may try to void this contract because what he said was really, really offensive. It is interesting, though, no African-American players have stood up and made any comment at all about what DeSean Jackson did. That, to me, is really surprising. Now, the other interesting thing is wide receiver Julian Edelman, New England Patriots, sounded off, and he is of Jewish faith. He is of the opinion that I'd like to meet with DeSean Jackson. I'd like to talk to DeSean Jackson about what he wrote on social media. I want to take DeSean Jackson to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., so we would have a better understanding of where our lives come from. And Edelman is a really smart guy. Also made the comment, you know, people who are Black are much like people who are Jewish. We have been hated by a lot of ignorant people. We've been condemned. We've been damned by a lot of ignorant people. Maybe we should get together and we should talk about this so we each have a better understanding. And then to top it all off, a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor who lives in Philadelphia made contact with the Eagles, and he wants to take DeSean Jackson to Europe, to Auschwitz, to see the camps. That's an amazing story. So we've not heard the end of this. I don't know what the Eagles front office is going to do with DeSean Jackson, but I think ownership was really, really offended. What Edelman did was special, and now all of a sudden, this Holocaust survivor at age 94 wants to take him to Austria and to take him to Auschwitz. Amazing, amazing story. Bruce, we've not heard the end of the story yet.
Well, I don't think anyone who goes to Auschwitz or visits the Holocaust Museum can fail to be moved. So hopefully something happens there. What can you tell me about what's happening directly with the pandemic and NFL teams right now?
Well, the National Football League, as we alluded to, kept saying, Roger Goodell made the statement, full house, full 16-game schedule. And now that does not look like it's possible that this could happen. The pandemic nationwide in America is just epic, catastrophic proportions. And all of a sudden, in the last 7 calendar days, Bruce, a whole number of teams have sent out letters to their season ticket holders announcing that we will play at less than 100% capacity. Arrowhead Stadium, 72,000, is announcing that they're going to play at less than 50% capacity. And their letter to their season ticket holders said, Bruce, if you own a season ticket, you can attend home games 1, 3, 5, and 7. Lee, if you own a season ticket, you can sit in those seats games 2, 4, 6, and 8. And what they're doing is they're going to repay the funds to all single game ticket purchasers who won't be able to attend games. So that's what's happened in Kansas City. Similar letter went out in Green Bay. Baltimore Ravens, who seats 71,000 fans, sent a letter this week to their season ticket holders telling them they're going to admit only 14,000 fans per game if they play. And they've yet to work out a formula as to how those tickets are going to be dispersed. The only club that has popped off and said, I don't want to do this are the Raiders. They've sold out that brand new Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So they don't think it's fair. They didn't say anything about safety, health issues. They don't think it's fair that we tell season ticket holders they can't come to the games after they bought all the season tickets to support the move from Oakland. So that's where we are with that situation. We got weeks before an NFL season might start, but it takes time to put a new seating plan into place and handle all of these logistics. But what was said back in March, April, and May by the commissioner doesn't seem to stand right now as we march through July. And who knows whether there's actually going to be a season because of what's happening around the country.
One wonders if even 50% seating, if that really is going to save people from being infected. I can't help but wonder.
Well, I think the biggest issue is the safety of the players, and the players have concerns about that. Then the second biggest issue is, will you spread the disease by opening your stadium? And the reality of everything that we're dealing with in America right now, and it's just not the National Football League, it's everywhere, is if America cannot tamp down the spread of this disease, a whole bunch of things are going to shut down. I talked to a sports medicine guy this week, and I asked him what's the biggest thing they should be scared about. And he said, you can test clean before you go to camp. What happens when you get inside the bubble? What happens when you get inside the meeting rooms? What happens if one player who was clean outside suddenly develops symptoms day 4 or test number 3 in that camp? Now suddenly you got all kinds of problems in terms of, have I spread it to my teammates in the locker room? How am I going to deal with this? So inside the bubble is scaring everybody. And the NFL hasn't gotten there. The NBA has just arrived. They're very concerned about that. Baseball's got some positive tests, but not the massive numbers that they feared. And the National Hockey League is yet to arrive in their hub cities. That's coming a couple of weeks from now. So NFL's really concerned. The sports medicine people I've exchanged emails with and talked to on the phone, they say inside the bubble is scaring a lot of people right now.
We spoke last week about the Washington Redskins team name controversy. What's happening with that?
That name is going to be changed. Daniel Snyder is under enormous heat right now. This has become not only a civic issue, it's become a financial issue. The latest is that Snyder and his co-owners are in agreement there will be a name change. 3 of the minority owners say they're putting their stock up for sale. They want out. Daniel Snyder, who years and years said, I will never change the name, has now, I think, pretty much agreed to the fact that he has to change the name. I'm surprised Roger Goodell has not taken a public stance on this, but then this is the same Roger Goodell that did not take a public stance on Colin Kaepernick. But they are meeting, and then what's transpired is the mayor of Washington, D.C., Washington City Council, who both control the land that is RFK Stadium, where Daniel Snyder wants to build a new stadium, have told Daniel Snyder, if you do not change the name Redskins, we will not do business with you on that piece of land. And now the governor of the state of Maryland, Larry Hogan, where the current FedEx field is, told Daniel Snyder on Wednesday, the name is racist, you need to change the name. That's the state of Maryland's view. And then to top it all off, Federal Express, which has a $205 million namings right deal, has just indicated that if he does not change that name, they will cancel the contract and we will see you in court. We're not going to be your naming title sponsor at that stadium any longer. So he's under enormous pressure. A lot of different names have gone in and out as to what they could call the team, should call the team. Washington Presidents, Washington Monument, Washington Senators. The one that really caught my fancy, and I think it kind of fits where society is going, was Washington Red Tails. Red Tails would allow them to keep some linkage to Native Americans. Red Tails represents the Tuskegee Airmen and the courageous job the black pilots did in World War II to protect the B-17 and B-24 bombers who were flying over Europe that helped us win World War II. Had it not been for the, quote, Tuskegee Airmen and the Red Tails, we might not have won that war against Germany. And Red Tails, to me, would be a perfect solution to everything. It honors the Native Americans and it honors African Americans. But for some reason, Daniel Snyder does not want to go in that direction. He indicated 24 hours ago, he's of the opinion that whatever the new name is, it's not going to have any linkage to Native Americans. So that's where we are. That story in Washington continues to evolve. I would bet by the time we get to the end of training camp in August, if there is a training camp, the name of the franchise, Bruce, will be changed.
Okay, I see this week there has been a big development with one of the NFL's best, most exciting stars, Patrick Mahomes.
Kansas City quarterback hits the jackpot. And you know, in the NFL, it's all about what the last guy got. What did the last quarterback get? Well, the highest paid quarterback as of last week was Russell Wilson up in Seattle, $35 million a year. And of course, he had led the Seahawks to the Super Bowl and all that. Well, Patrick Mahomes just got a 10-year contract extension from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's had 2 spectacular seasons. He was the NFL MVP as a rookie. He was the Super Bowl MVP in year 2 as Kansas City won the Super Bowl. So he gets a 10-year extension worth at least $435 million, and there's a whole bunch of bonuses added on. It's an enormous amount of money. I mean, it's going to average over $42 million a year by the time they get to the end of the contract. Kansas City can afford it. It is structured, at least in the first 3 years, he gets lower pay, does get a signing bonus, but gets lower pay. It is structured so that Kansas City can sign other players to, quote, keep that pretty good football team intact. Now, in years 4 and 5, he's going to get mega bonuses as part of the contract. And 1 year, the cap figure is going to be $49 million by year 5 of the contract. But after that, all the guaranteed money has pretty much gone away. So if anything were to change, were he to get hurt, were Andy Reid to retire, were the team to fall apart, were Patrick Mahomes maybe not be the same player anymore, if they wanted to trade him or release him, the cap hit would not be as severe at the back end of the contract because he would have been paid a lot of the money on the front end of the contract. But he earned it. He deserved it. And it's the way the NFL is. It's a quarterback's league. Mahomes is now the top guy. Now, it bears watching what happens with the next group of quarterbacks. Here comes Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. He signed a franchise tag deal for $31 million on a 1-year deal. He wanted $40 million plus. Only difference is Dak has never been to the Super Bowl, whereas Patrick Mahomes has. Dak has not done statistically what Mahomes has done Sunday by Sunday. And the other quarterback is Deshaun Watson of Houston. I mean, his contract's coming up. Now, I don't know whether or not he's a $40 million a year man. I'll tell you what, he's the heart and soul, makes that offense go. So he's probably going to get a payday too. So it's the way the NFL does business. Last guy got state-of-the-art money. Here comes the next guy and the guy after him. It'd be interesting to see what kind of numbers they draw. There's no doubt, though, Patrick Mahomes, a great football player, just 2 years into the program in Kansas City.
Very exciting guy to watch. What's happening with college football?
They got a problem. I've been very critical of Mark Emmett, the head of the NCAA. I wrote a column on my website for all the European fans who are on the internet. Check my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. I wrote a column that Mark Emmett and the NCAA have failed the 130 Division I schools in the country. At this point in time, we're starting to see the dominoes fall. This all started with the Ivy League announcing they were canceling its football season. The Ivy League, which is Harvard and Yale and Penn, they're going to move and they're going to play games next spring. The Big Ten Conference announced they were going to cancel all their big money non-conference games. They will only play a 10-game season of conference opponents. The Southeastern Conference has called an emergency meeting of the athletic directors on Monday. They're going to bring these guys in and they're going to evaluate what the SEC should do. It's all about big-time money in the Southeastern Conference, the Alabamas and the Auburns of the world. Atlantic Coast Conference has just indicated the Clemsons of the world that they're probably just going to play a 10-game conference schedule. The Pac-12 Conference has not made an announcement yet, though I think it's coming. I think their item is no non-conference games for the Pac-12. We'll play just 10 conference games. Now, the big issue is this is a fallback thing for college football at this point. So they'll dump the full schedule. They'll play strictly a conference schedule. If this virus does not get shut down, what they could then do is push the start of the season back to October 1st, which I think they're going to do. And if we still don't have control of it, as we get to close to October, cancel the whole season and move the whole college football season to March, April, and May. And I think realistically, that's the thing that happens. And what's got me upset, NCAA rulebook, 795 pages. NCAA controls everything, Bruce. They, in 3 months, did not come up with a comprehensive plan to test players at Division I schools, much less Division I AA, Division II, Division III. And all those schools and those conferences are probably going to shut their seasons down. How could the NCAA, which makes all this money, not have a comprehensive testing plan that would involve all 130 schools in college football? Bruce, it just shocks me. And what they're doing is they're dumping it at the front door of the athletic directors, go develop your own plans, or they're telling the governors, you figure it out and help my colleges and my conferences. But this is so complicated. The Atlantic Coast Conference has schools in 10 different states. Bruce, every one of those states has got a different set of problems as it relates to the pandemic. So they're trying. NCAA has done just a horrible job protecting the players. And I do believe that they should cancel the college football season and move the whole thing to next spring and just play it then. Hasn't happened yet. I would bet a week from now, 2 weeks from now on our notebook segment, they're going to probably wind up doing that.
Well, there's certainly a lot going on. Thanks a lot for the update, and a pleasure to see you again, Hacksaw.
Bruce, thank you very much. And for all our viewers, if you dabble on the internet, please check my website because I write a ton of football stuff as well as all the other sports here in America. It's leehacksawhamilton.com, and we'll check the notebook next week. Bruce, thank you.